Turning now to one of our top stories, EU-Turkey negotiations over the refugee crisis. Now, for more on Ankara's reaction to the proposal, I am joined by Ahmet Yukleyen. He is a political analyst at the Hazar Strategic Institute. Thank you so much for coming in. It's not going very well so far. The Turkish foreign minister has said the offer is actually unacceptable, and he says a real plan is even yet to take shape. Where do you think this will go? Will they find solutions via this meeting?
Well, first of all, let's remember how this thing has all started with the refugee flow. Clearly, the crisis in Syria. And this, from the very beginning, it should have been seen actually a global affair that everyone, all the countries should have taken responsibility from the very beginning. But as we see with the, let's say, ongoing negotiations over this, often, unfortunately, nation states and especially the EU is only coming to act on this issue after they have been largely impacted by the overflow of the refugees.
And Angela Merkel has noted that. She said very clearly she thinks Turkey has been left to its own devices during this refugee crisis. But tell me, if you can, what cards does Turkey hold in these negotiations? Technically, Turkey is a very powerful player here. Without Turkey's help, without Turkey's cooperation, this crisis will continue unabated.
Oh, certainly. Certainly, Turkey is the key. But let's also remember that, these refugees are not originating from Turkey. They're originating from Syria. So that is even more important. So, something has to be done about that. But in the meantime, what will happen to the refugees? I think the EU, as well as any country that holds themselves up to universal human rights, especially for the rights of the refugees to be accepted into their countries, all those countries that have, signed those agreements should uphold their promises. And the EU, especially, who has all the EU countries nearly have done that. So Turkey has been doing this for quite some time, more than 2 million refugees. So EU has to take more responsibility, and the offer, as you pointed out, is clearly not satisfactory on Turkey's side.
What does Turkey want, though? And we keep hearing mention of lifting the restrictions on visas required for Turks to travel to the European Union. And we're also hearing a lot of mention of kind of restarting the EU negotiation process, Turkey becoming a member. Does that matter to Turkey? How important is that?
Well, it's kind of really difficult, to come to understand these kind of negotiations at this point. EU-Turkey accession process has been going on for years. And it's kind of like magically this is taken out of the box and put together along with the refugee crisis. I think clearly the refugee crisis is a humanitarian, it's a global issue, and this has to be resolved, and all the parties should take more responsibility. Whereas Turkey's EU accession has been going on for quite a number of years, and of course parties should take responsibility on that account as well. Now, combining these two, I think it will make it just more difficult. And also the humanitarian aspect is kind of being downplayed. It turns out to be more and more of a political bargaining process, which I don't think, I think misses the larger picture.
Okay. Ahmet Yukleyen, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insight.